The Dishonored series is generally considered one of the better stealth franchises out there, and considering it's one of the few I'm actually capable of playing well enough to really enjoy, I'm inclined to agree. The genre in general is one of those things I tend to appreciate in concept better than in practice, entirely because I'm inexplicably bad at them no matter how many I play. But Dishonored has been one of the few exceptions. As you might expect, my interest in the franchise stems mostly from the atmosphere, world building, and storytelling, but I do enjoy the process of play more than most stealth games, even games I like more on the whole. So, Death of the Outsider, with the series' signature gameplay and the promise of major change in the series' ongoing narrative, appealed to me for obvious reasons. And while it's certainly not quite on the same level as the excellent Dishonored 2, it might actually be my favorite of the series. The protagonist this time around is Billy Lurk, supporting character from the previous game and all-around badass. After the events of Dishonored 2, she once again finds herself alone and seeks out her mentor and previous antagonist of the series, Dowd. What follows puts her on a path to pursue the Outsider, the deity-like figure that's been empowering people from the mysterious void, and she plans to put an end to the chaos caused by his interference in mortal affairs. Death of the Outsider isn't so much a full-fledged Dishonored sequel as a glorified DLC spin-off. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all, just a descriptive one. It was sold at less than the usual $60, it's not as long as the other Dishonored games, most of it takes place in one particular location, it's just a smaller project in general. But wow, does it use its time and space well. In fact, the use of space is one of the most impressive things about the game. The first few missions all take place in a particular part of the city, and the player will explore different parts of this area in different circumstances over the course of those missions. Despite having multiple levels set in this one area, it never feels stale, because the game manages to change up the circumstances and locations you visit very well. Every time the game brought me back to this area, there was something new to explore, and a different angle to approach the game space from. It's some impressive level design, which of course we've come to expect from this series. Aside from the way it uses and reuses game spaces, there's honestly not that much to say about the design and gameplay that hasn't already been said about the first two games in the series. There truly are a number of different ways to approach every situation. There are a lot of potential outcomes and complications that adjust to the player's actions, and the powers are a ton of fun to use. Par for the course, really. If you've played any of the other games in the series, you're likely to enjoy this one a great deal. The only major thing that seems to be missing is that there's not really much in the way of a moral choice system based on your lethality in this game. You can still choose to be lethal or non-lethal, but the endings you get depend on how much information you manage to uncover and what you choose to do with it. As far as I could tell, there wasn't really much in the game that rewarded or punished you for lethal or non-lethal actions, which makes sense on some level, really. Billy is something of a mercenary with a checkered past, and it's a little more believable that the things that you're doing wouldn't have as huge an effect on the world just based on whether or not you kill people or leave them alive, but I don't know, I did kind of miss that element, though the way it handled choice in the end was excellent, so, still not entirely sure how I feel about that particular element of it, but it turned out alright in the end. What's more impressive is the game's world building. Sort of. Not so much the building itself, but the way it uses the world to explore ideas in a way that, frankly, I've always thought the series has fallen short of really pulling off. There's a lot of interesting stuff in these games with a lot of implications, a lot of meaning lurking just beneath the surface, but it rarely seems to actually get explored. The first one was especially guilty on this front. But Death of the Outsider dives in head first, asking questions about how we process what's beyond our comprehension, and the mistakes we make in trying to understand spiritual truths we can't fully grasp. Weirdly enough, it's essentially a game about religion, spirituality, and the human discomfort with uncertainty. I enjoyed playing the game, but the thing that really set it apart for me, the thing that probably makes it my favorite of the series, even if I don't think it's necessarily the best, was the simple fact that when the credits rolled, I set down the controller and started thinking, and then started writing. Only so many games have that effect on me, and certainly not either of the previous games in this series. That may or may not sell you on this game the same way it does to me, but while this is a game review, I'm here to tell you what I found worthwhile in the game, and that's it. If it sounds great to you, I think you'll appreciate what this game has to offer just like I did, and if not, you'll probably still enjoy the trademark Dishonored stealth gameplay, excellent level design, and extra details about how the world of Dishonored works. So in Games is Lit 101, Dishonored Death of the Outsider gets an A-, and a recommendation if you're into stealth games or philosophical discussions about spirituality and godhood.